You can just do this in your PJs or in your bed. So I'm so happy to be here, and I appreciate the introduction. I'm just looking at my list to see if there's anything that Cole didn't mention that I wanted to talk about, but mostly I teach all around Park City. I teach adults, kids, families. I do everything from birthday parties to summer camps, and right now I'm teaching teachers at the high school with my partner Rebecca, and we're doing mindfulness skills for teachers, and so that they can bring them into the classrooms. So I also teach, just so you guys know, and I can mention this at the end again, but I teach every Tuesday evening at Basin Rec mindfulness for everyone. So no experience necessary. It's a free class, and it's from 6 to 7 at Basin Rec on Tuesday evenings. And then I'm also teaching adult yoga and mindfulness through the Compass catalog, which is part of the Park City School District. And that's on Monday evenings, 5:30 to 6:30, and that's for adults. So anyway, let's get on. And then if you're interested at the end, I'll mention stuff in case you want to find me and practice with me later. Basically, what we're going to do today is I'm going to just supply a toolkit. We are going to create a toolkit together of different mindfulness informal practices that you can bring into your life and you can do when it's convenient for you, or when you need it, or when you want to teach it to somebody else. So all sorts of different stuff you're going to leave with today, but they're simple techniques that you can use to ground yourself. And I know right now we're in this time, I call it a time of too muchness, right? There's so much going on. So between COVID and racial tensions, the political climate, homeschooling, just huge changes everywhere in everything. And as you guys know, it's a lot. And what I'm going to do is just teach you the basics of mindfulness. And by all means, you can take what you learned today and this is your practice for the next 20 years. But there is so much to explore and learn and grow with once you find that you like these tools, or you're using them, or you want more. So for me, I'm always looking for more and new ideas. So there are plenty of things out there, and I can also point you in the direction towards the end of other places you can check out and people you can read about and learn from. So what we are trying to do here is really to meet life with an open awareness and with kindness and curiosity. So sounds simple, not so easy to be kind to yourself all the time and to be not judgmental with yourself and others. So it's a practice. And most of the questions that I get from people who have never practiced mindfulness or meditation before are super common. They're the same questions we get from a lot of people. So don't be embarrassed if something you want to ask at the end is something you're curious about, because it's probably a pretty typical question. So just starting out with what mindfulness is, we're going to talk about that. There are 4 foundations of mindfulness. There's mindfulness of breath and body, mindfulness of your feelings or emotions, mindfulness of your thoughts, and then also mindfulness of the Dharma or the teachings and how we bring it into our lives, how we integrate it. So today, because this is a lunch and learn, we are going to be using, we're going to be doing some mindful eating towards the end. So if you have a piece of fruit or a sandwich or anything laying around, you know, a raisin, a piece of gum, I don't know, anything around, keep it on the side, and we're going to use that a little bit later. If you want to run off and grab something and come back, I'll give you a minute later on to do that. So I just wanted to start out with some of the definitions of mindfulness, and why I'm saying some of the definitions. There are tons of different ways to express, talk about, and understand mindfulness. But I have some of like my favorite definitions from different teachers, and I'm going to just kind of cover those with you, because sometimes you hear something in a specific version and it doesn't really resonate with you. And then you hear it a different way and it's like, ah, I get that. So I'm going to give you a few different definitions of mindfulness. So the first one I love is from Jon Kabat-Zinn, and he is kind of like the founder of mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR. You may have heard of that, and he's one of like the most well-known teachers in this area. So his definition of mindfulness is paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. So lots of different stuff, but that's basically it. The definition I like to use with kids and teachers and kind of newbies, it's my favorite way of expressing mindfulness, is from Amy Saltzman. And it's just this: paying attention here and now with kindness and curiosity, and then choosing your behavior. So same thing, a different way. Another teacher of mine, James Baraz, he says this: mindfulness is simply being aware of what's happening right now without wishing it were different. And I love this quote by Viktor Frankl. This is just for me, it kind of says what mindfulness is. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So it's in that place, it's in that pause where we can grow, we can change, we can open up to something new. And for my littles, because I teach kids starting at 3 years old, the way I describe mindfulness is the ABCs. The ABCs are: pay attention to your breath so you can choose your behavior. The ABCs. So again, just as simple as that. So before we get started and really kind of dive into the mindfulness practices and the different foundations, I want to just do a little bit of a practice. I would like to do this as a standing practice. So if you have space to stand up in the room where you are, feel free to move your chair out of the way. You're not going to need much space, just enough room to stand, really. If you'd like to do this sitting, you're more than welcome. But I'm going to move my chair out of the way. And hopefully you can hear me. Can you hear me, Cole? Yeah. All right, cool. So we're going to do a practice called head, shoulders, knees, and toes. So we all kind of know that song from when we were little. I won't sing it. I will spare you. But it's a great, simple, informal practice that you can do at home. You can do in the car. You can do it anywhere. Preferably not while you're driving, but it's a fun one also to teach your kids and to do with them. So what we're going to do first, and again, you can do this seated, don't worry about it if you don't feel like standing up. So you're going to kind of just touch your head, give your head a little massage. So feel free to join me. Massage your head and neck, and then maybe, all around your face, your forehead, your jaw. I know that's where I hold a lot of tightness in my jaw, your neck. Good. And then we're going to move to our shoulders. So take, your hands, just kind of massage your shoulders. Give yourself a little kindness here today. And then just soften your knees. Maybe reach down, rub your knees. Give your knees a little bit of attention, some warmth. And maybe just, locating your knees, taking a look. And then if it feels okay, bend your knees more, and you can even touch your toes. If you can't reach your toes, don't worry about it. You don't need to. And again, you can do this seated. But if you touch your toes, maybe you can give each toe a little squeeze. To do the 5 toes on each foot. Give them a little squeeze just to wake them up. And then nice flat back, come up to standing. So we've located our body parts. Now what I want you to do is just lightly touch your head. And you're going to say to yourself, I'd say in your inside voice, but say to yourself, I'm touching my head. And then hands to your shoulders. You can say to yourself, I'm touching my shoulders. These are my shoulders. And then hands to your knees again lightly. These are my knees. And then down to your toes. These are my toes. And come back up and take a breath. And then we're going to bring it into a practice where you're not going to be touching the body parts, but you're going to be noticing the sensations. So this really brings it into the mindfulness practice where we're moving inside and we're being curious and kind to ourselves, not judgmental, just kind of playing around. So first, I want you to, if it's comfortable, close your eyes. If that doesn't feel good, you can just stare softly out at the floor or the wall in front of you. But take a breath or two. And then see if you can notice your head. So we're not touching our head, but maybe just saying to yourself, this is my head. And just notice what it feels like there. Maybe notice what's tight or what feels relaxed. Maybe your face is a little warm today. Just notice. And then your shoulders. Bring your mind's eye to your shoulders. These are my shoulders. Maybe again, you feel like one shoulder higher than the other. Maybe they just feel uncomfortable. Maybe you need to relax them down a little bit. Just notice what you're feeling. And then your knees. Notice the sensations maybe around your knees. Maybe you have a little throbbing or tingling happening. Just notice. And then your toes. Bring your attention to your toes and see if you can feel the sensations of your toes. Feeling your feet grounding down into the mat or the floor, wherever you're standing, wherever your feet are. Can you feel what's happening in your feet? And then if your eyes are closed, just blink them open to a soft gaze. And let's come back and have a seat. So that practice is called an informal practice. So when we practice meditation or I'm going to say mindfulness today, you don't need to be seated with your legs crossed, facing east, staring at a statue of Buddha, right? It can be when you're online at the grocery store. Where's my head, my shoulders, my knees, and toes? It could be when you arrive at work and right before you get out of the car. I'm going to take 3 mindful breaths before I go into work. It can be anytime, right? During the commercial break, when you're watching television, turn off the sound and just take 3 mindful breaths, right? It can be anytime. So you don't have to have a super formal practice. And also, it's totally normal and typical that when you're doing a practice like that, head, shoulders, knees, and toes, you don't feel anything, right? Maybe you didn't feel anything happening in your head or your knees. I don't know. I can't even really feel my knees when my eyes are closed and I'm not touching them. Normal. So it's a practice. And the more you practice, the sensations start to become more familiar and you start to notice things like, ooh, my heart is racing. I know, that means I'm nervous. I'm going to take a breath and be okay with being nervous because that's just what it is. And I'm going to proceed with what I need to do. So that's a little bit of example of what happens with mindfulness. So we're going to move into mindfulness of breath and body. And that practice we just did was actually a nice informal practice for that. But we're going to begin with something called the anchor breath. The anchor breath helps us do just what an anchor would do for a boat. The anchor breath helps us come back to center. It helps us ground. It helps us create a foundation. And as we know, when we toss an anchor off the boat and it goes down into the water and it kind of sticks in the sand or the mud, the boat isn't completely still. The boat is still going to kind of move around with the wind or the current of the water. or how many people are on which side of the boat. That's what happens. And that's the same for our mindfulness practice. We set an anchor and we use it to bring us back as often as we need to be more centered, to be more focused and grounded. So the first anchor we're going to use is the anchor of our belly. So place your hands on your belly and also sit up tall, in your chair. Be alert. Don't be stiff like a statue, but be alert. Find some softness there. Feel your feet on the floor. And then place your hands on your belly. And just take a breath or two here. Allow your breath to be big at first, maybe exaggerate it. And then maybe you begin to notice your hands kind of moving out and in as your belly gets full and then empties. Just notice, and you can breathe through your nose or your mouth, but just see if you can feel the movement of your hands in your belly or on your belly. And then allow the breath to get a little more natural. Just let it be relaxed. Let it be a normal breath, a natural breath if you can. And see if you can notice there the feeling of the breath in your belly. If you need to, you can always close your eyes and relax. If that doesn't feel good, like I said, just soft gaze anywhere you want. Good. So hopefully you've felt that breath in your belly. And like I said before, if you don't feel anything, that's normal. So don't worry about it. That's why we practice. Now we're going to take one or two hands to our heart center, to the chest. And just let your hands rest there. Sit up tall. And again, exaggerate. Take some big breaths and see if you can feel your hands kind of moving with the breath. Maybe you firmly press your hands into your chest a little bit more to really contact and feel the heartbeat. Feel that hug of your hands to your heart. And then allow the breath to be soft, to be smooth and relaxed and even. Good. And then we're going to go to the last spot. So you're going to take your first finger and bring it out in front of you, and then place that finger right underneath your nostrils. So below your nose, above your upper lip. If you're wearing a mask, which a lot of us are, you don't even need to do the hand because you will feel this practice with the mask. But if you're not wearing a mask, you put your finger there just to kind of find it, and then take some breaths in and out of your nose. You don't have to exaggerate it too much to feel cool air entering your nostrils as you breathe in, and warm air as you breathe out. And after you've kind of found that, you can let your hand rest on your lap and just notice, again, cool air on the inhale and warm air on the exhale. Smooth and even breathing. Good. And then open your eyes if they're not open. And think about which one of those was real easy for you. Maybe one of them right away, you're like, oh yeah, I feel that belly breath or that heart breath. One of them was probably more comfortable and natural for you today. Whichever one it was, that is your anchor today. And tomorrow it might be different. The next day it might be different. But it's nice at the beginning of your day to kind of lay in bed for a moment and think, ooh, what's my anchor today? And take just a few mindful breaths there. So that's one of the practices of coming into your body and noticing how you're feeling and what the sensations are. So we're going to do another practice here using our mindful body by using the 5 senses. So, oh, and I'm going to just say this before we move on. So I have a repair guy downstairs in my house, and my dog is going to probably be barking throughout this, so I apologize. But I'm going to use my mindfulness to stay focused with you guys, and use the barking of the dog as your anchor if you need to, because it will come and go. So thank you for your understanding. So we're going to do a senses mindfulness practice. This one is informal. I love this one because this one is a great one to use when you're out on a hike, or when you're looking out the window, or you're laying in bed. You can visualize. So what I'd like you to do right now is to visualize maybe a place you love. I'm going to give you some suggestions. Maybe a beach. Maybe you love a specific spot at an ocean or a beach, or maybe it's, a place you want to go on vacation. Maybe it's a lake or a pool, but just like someplace vacationy and yummy and maybe warm. So I want you to bring your thoughts, bring your energy to imagining that. And if you'd like in this practice, again, you can close your eyes to really contact your senses. So, what I'd like you to do first is to take a moment and notice, what do you see in front of you? I want you to notice in your mind's eye 5 things you might see at the beach or the pool or wherever you are. 5 things you might see. It could be the water, a tree, it could be a child playing in the sand. So just take a moment, count 5 things. And then take a breath. Now notice 4 things you might hear in this location. It could be the sound of seagulls or the sound of, again, like a child laughing, playing on the beach. Whatever those 4 sounds are that you hear. Take a breath and notice 3 things you might feel. Maybe it's your bathing suit on your body or your toes in the sand. Take a breath. Notice 2 things you might smell at the beach. Maybe there's something in the air, that sea air, or maybe somebody's barbecuing on the other side of the beach. And take a breath. And then maybe think of something you might be tasting. Maybe it's that drink that you love when you're by the pool. So just think about that. Maybe you're tasting your toothpaste from this morning. Could be anything. Just notice. Take a breath and then come on back with a slow, soft gaze. So that's a really great practice to bring you into your senses, into your body. And again, you can do that when you're off on a hike with your family. You can call out the different senses. You can do it anytime when you need, what did it take us? Maybe 2 minutes to just center yourself and ground and come into some positive energy. So that's, again, an informal practice you can use to come into your mindful body. We're going to talk about mindfulness of feelings and emotions. A lot of times we'll call this mindfulness of feeling tones, because it's more about the relationship to things, such as, let's just say you're at that beach and what comes up for you? Is it pleasant? Is it unpleasant? Or is it kind of neutral? Is it something that comes up, I like this, or I don't like it, or I don't know, could go either way. So just beginning to notice the things that come up for us, and I'm just going to name a few things, and I want you to think about your kind of feeling tone around that. So maybe it's looking at the water at the beach. Maybe you're watching the waves. What kind of feeling does that bring up to you? Does that bring up positive, something you don't like, something you, whatever? And then maybe I'll just name a few other things. Let's say pizza. What does that bring up for you? Is that a feeling of positive? Ooh, I love pizza, or yeah, I don't like pizza. Just noticing what that brings up. Maybe the smell of lavender. What does that bring up for you? Is that a good feeling? Is that a smell you don't like? It's not good. Or I don't know. I don't even know what that smells like really. So just beginning to notice, being mindful of the things that come up for you, and then just not even noticing what it is, but what's attached to that. Oh, that's good. That's something that makes me happy. It makes me feel this way. Or that's something that brings up a negative energy and it makes me feel a not so good way. So just beginning to notice the mindfulness of your feeling tones. And the next foundation of mindfulness is about our thoughts. But going back to our emotions and how they relate to our thoughts. So most emotions last only about 90 seconds. So maybe there's a sensation in your throat or your heart races. Maybe your face gets red. So these are sensations that come up with a certain emotion. And they probably last 90 seconds-ish. But the thing that makes your emotions seemingly last more than that temporary amount of time, because emotions move. Emotions are emotion. They're moving through you always. They're not staying there stagnant. But the reason why so many times we feel like, oh, I can't get out of this feeling or this emotion is because of the thoughts that we have attached to that emotion. The thoughts make it seem longer. So the thoughts about what we're experiencing are the things we can really maybe control a little bit more than the actual emotion. So our thoughts are, it's an interesting thing. So we have thoughts about what happened yesterday. We have thoughts about what might happen tomorrow. More often than not, we're in the past or we're in the future than we're in the present. And this is why we practice mindfulness. So we have about 50,000 thoughts a day. So that's a lot of thoughts. And about 98% of those thoughts are repetitive. 98% of those 50,000 thoughts are repetitive. They're the same thoughts we had yesterday, the day before, the day before. Oh, my hair drives me crazy. Or, oh, I wish he would stop saying that. Right? Same stuff over and over and over. 80% of those thoughts that we have are negative. They're negative thoughts. We have this thing called a negativity bias. So it's pretty typical that our thoughts will go to the negative, like I said, but we're like Velcro for the bad stuff and Teflon for the good stuff. So the bad stuff tends to like stick to us and we hold on to it. Oh, I can't believe, with my kids, I can't believe I failed that test. Oh, I'll never be good enough. I'll never be smart enough. It brings up that kind of negative feeling. But if we can learn to practice seeing the good and holding on to the good a little bit longer, noticing the positive stuff and really feeling into that positive stuff, being mindful of it, it can help us, So yeah, I failed that test, but the teacher's going to give us another try. And if I study, maybe my score will go up. Or if I keep practicing, it will get easier. Now I understand what I need to practice, and I'm going to try that. So this idea of switching from the Velcro to the Teflon, it's totally accessible with a practice. And the practice that I love for holding on to the good and really making it stick a little bit longer in our lives is this theory from Rick Hanson. He's one of the very well-known mindfulness meditation teachers. And it's about noticing something good when it happens. So we're walking down the street and instead of noticing, oh, there's trash over there, maybe noticing where it's clean, noticing where it's a beautiful view, noticing the green grass. And when you can notice something good and then pause for a moment, hold on to that for about 15 seconds. So just take a moment. And 15 seconds can feel a little bit longer than you think. But if you can hold on to something good for about 15 seconds, just breathe into it and be with it, It can help you change that negativity bias. It can help you create more of a positive habit, a habit that you'd rather have than one that you feel like you're stuck with. So just take a moment here. I want you to sort of look around the room you're in, just take a little gaze about and find one thing that makes you happy. Maybe it's a picture of somebody you love, or the yummy drink you have sitting next to you, or the color of your walls. Just pick one thing, and then we're going to pause, and we're just going to sit here for about 15 seconds. And I want you to just think about that. Think about that thing that makes you happy. Good. So sometimes that's it. That's all you need. And if that is your mindfulness practice, that holding on to the good, seeing something positive and holding it for about 15 seconds when you can remember to do so, that is a fantastic mindfulness practice. It's informal, it's easy to do. You can do it, you can set your timer, and a couple times a day. And when that timer rings, I'm going to notice something good and just be with it for 15 seconds. Pretty simple if we can remember to do it. And that's what mindfulness is. It's this practice of forgetting and remembering and forgetting and remembering, but coming back as often as you can to that mindfulness practice. So we're now going to move toward our next practice of mindfulness, and that's mindful eating. So I brought a little variety today. So if you want to take out whatever you brought and pull it out. If you didn't bring anything, hurry up, go grab something and come back. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds while I describe what I brought. So here's some options. I brought some grapes. I brought some almonds. I brought a raspberry. I brought some dried cranberries. You can do that with raisins. A sugar snap pea. I also brought a roasted potato from the other night. So I'm just going to pick one of these items, and that's going to be my mindful food. And I play with this with kids all the time, and they love this practice. So if you have kids at home, this is a great practice to do at dinner to kind of bring everybody into center and to focus. And it's also a great way to practice using our senses that we did. Earlier we did a nice senses practice, your sight, what does it sound like? What does it look like? We're going to use that here in our mindful eating practice. So I'm just going to pick, let's see, I'm going to pick a grape. So what I like to do with the kids is like, imagine that you're an alien. You're an alien scientist and you've never seen this thing before. You have no idea what it is. So you're going to kind of check it out and play around and try to figure out what it is by using our mindfulness practice. So, and if you're sitting at home and you have the dinner plate, have your child look at the dinner plate and pick one thing to start with. And again, if you're going to eat lunch right after this, hopefully you can use this practice. So here we are, I have a grape. What I'm going to do is just put that grape in my hand. And I'm going to take a moment here just to look at that grape and notice everything I can about that grape, right? So just looking at it, and I know this seems silly, but it's really a wonderful mindfulness practice. It helps with digestion because you're going to be eating a little bit slower. It's a great way for you to practice gratitude and also just to be in this present moment. So I'm noticing that my grape is kind of a green color, but near the ends it's a little bit brown. It has some different shades. There's kind of some stripes in it. There's some different stuff. So notice your food. Then the next thing I want you to notice is, does it have a smell? So my grape has kind of a funky smell. It's hard to explain what it is, but I do notice a smell. And then maybe, does it make a sound? When you roll it around in your fingers, you have it near your ear. Do you hear anything? I don't really hear anything. And it even bounced on the desk. I didn't hear anything. All right. And then how about, what does it feel like in your hands? Is it smooth, spiky? Is it cold or warm? Like just notice what that feels like. And then we're going to try a little bit of a tasting. So what we're going to do is not just put it in our mouth and eat it. We're going to take a bite of whatever it is. And I want you to just take a small bite and let it sit in your mouth for a moment. And just notice what it feels like in your mouth. Is it cold? Is it hard? Does it crunch? Is it squirting? What does it do, this food that you have in your mouth? And just notice. Is it a taste that tastes good to you? Or is it a taste you're like, oh, that's sour, that doesn't taste good? Just notice pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. You can eat the rest of whatever it is that you brought. Take a few more bites. And then notice, what are your thoughts around that? Does it bring up a memory? Something, oh, when I was little, my mom always used to get those cotton candy grapes and we used to take them to the park. Like, what does it bring up for you? Is it a memory or is it, oh, that reminds me, we're out of grapes. I got to go to the store. I got to buy grapes. Like, what does that bring up for you? Or is it, I never really noticed that I kind of like that flavor, or I never noticed how sour it was at the end. So that's the example of mindful eating. And it's a great practice to do at home. Like I said, bring the whole family together and, everybody just look at their plate and pick one thing to eat mindfully and let's discuss it. You can even go back to, where did we get this food? Did it just appear in the refrigerator at home? No, it came from the store. Where was it before the store? Was it at a factory? Was it packaged? Where was it before the factory? You can go all the way back to the seed. Where might that seed have come from? So it's a great conversation piece. It's also just a great way to appreciate what you're eating and, again, to be mindful of what you're putting in your mouth and your body. Maybe you'll think twice, you know what? I don't even like those. I'm not going to eat that candy bar. It's a little sweet for me. I never even realized that. So just noticing. So we have a lot of opportunities. We have a lot of moments where we can choose how we show up. We can take the time to remember. We can connect and pause with our breath. You can breathe in the good. You can show self-compassion. You can get through the too muchness of it all if you practice. And like I always say, practice is not about being perfect. It's about just being where you are and being kind and curious with yourself. So by practicing the ABCs, paying attention to your breath so you can choose your behavior, these are ways that you can come into a mindfulness practice. Before we go into Q&A, I just wanted to share some of my favorite books with you. So if we were together, I would actually pass these around. But what I'm going to do is just show them to you in the screen. And then if you want, you can write down what they are, take a screenshot, or ask the library to order them if they don't have them. Or, oh, we just missed Amazon Prime Day, I think. But would have been a good opportunity. Anyway, these are some of my favorites. So for kids, I have a few favorites that I brought today. This one is No Ordinary Apple. And this book is basically about mindful eating. And it's a fantastic book to read, and you can go through it and practice with the kids. This one is called Some Days I Flip My Lid. And this is also a really fun practice with kids, talking about mindfulness in the brain. And then this one, because we live in Bark City, Puppy Mind. And this is a great way to talk about mindfulness with kids or adults, because training our mind is like training a puppy, right? You have to have patience. Like, we love that puppy no matter what they do, even if they poop on the rug and they jump on the furniture, we still love it. So bringing that practice to ourselves, even though it might be challenging and we can't stay focused for more than 10 minutes, or even though we have a hard time being consistent with our practice or doing what we'd like to do, being kind to ourselves and being patient with ourselves. So these are my favorite adult books. I'll just hold them up. So I have two teachers right now. I'm taking a mindfulness meditation teacher certification program, which I'm almost done with. And Tara Brock is one of my teachers. She has many books. Any book that she has is amazing. This is one of her first books, and I love it. It's called True Refuge. My other teacher in my certification program is Jack Kornfield, and he is very well known in mindfulness, one of the first mindfulness teachers, The Wise Heart. He has many, many different books, and I would recommend any and all of them. This is just one that I have on my coffee or on my side table right now. Pema Chodron, another fantastic teacher and practitioner, and she has many books. This one was one of the first ones I bought from her, and I go back to it a lot. And it's real short and simple. John Kabat-Zinn, I was talking about earlier today, and he's an MBS. He's the originator of MBSR, and amazing teacher. This was the first mindfulness book I bought back, gosh, I think it was 1997 or 8, and I had cassette tapes that went with it. That's how old it is. But so great. This is just a perfect first book about mindfulness. And then the last one I have today is Sharon Salzberg. This one I got in 1999 as a gift when I did my first yoga teacher training from a friend of mine. And Sharon Salzberg has a brand new book out called Real Change. And she has so many books again, and also an amazing reference for practicing mindfulness and loving kindness. So those are the books I brought today. I guess we have a few minutes left. If anybody has any questions, I would love to answer questions and be able to answer anything you might have. And just in case I forget at the end, I'm going to give you my website address, because you can find my YouTube videos there, tons of little mini mindfulness practices, informal stuff you can use for you or your kids, yoga, all sorts of things on there. So my website is yoga with Randy Jo, RANDIJO.com, yogawithrandyjo.com. So you can look it up, and there's lots of different practices and information about mindfulness and my schedule of where I'm teaching and stuff. So any questions from anybody? I guess Cole will sort of work on this, huh?
Yeah.
Put them in the chat, or you can.
Some of you guys are welcome to type questions in the chat. I can read them out loud, or if you'd like to too, you should just be able to unmute yourselves and ask a question. Go ahead.
I have a question. What was that second to the last book you mentioned that was really great?
Was it this one?
Yes.
Wherever you go, there you are. It's John Kabat-Zinn. Highly recommend it. And you can get all these on audiobook too. They're great.
Okay. Yeah, that was a great session. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jane.
Any other questions? Someone just jumped in the chat room, did say thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Going once for questions, going twice for questions. 3 times for questions.
Oh, yes. I have one more. Walking meditation. Can't remember if you mentioned that, but I was so intrigued with that.
Oh, definitely. So walking meditation is one of my favorites. And the great thing about walking meditation is that, you can do it barefoot, you can do it with shoes on, inside the house, out in the mountains, in nature. But the wonderful thing about walking meditation is you can use it on a day when you feel just too tired to sit and meditate. Like you're going to just nod off, right? There's no way I can sit here for 10 minutes. I'm going to fall asleep. Or maybe you have like lower back pain and it's not comfortable to sit. You can find a space that's like 6 to 10 feet. So you don't need to do a whole long hike. And in fact, we want to find a smaller space to do mindful meditation, 6 to 10 feet. Wow. And just be in your breath and walk super slow. I like to say super slow motion, right? And just feel the sole of your foot on the floor, feel your toes as they lift. Take a breath and then take the next step. And you're setting a timer to do this so that you're not worried. It's not about how many laps I can do, right? This isn't the gym. It's not how many times I can go back and forth within 10 minutes. It's about being as present as you can for that short period of time and being in your breath and your body, noticing when your thoughts wander, just like you would with a regular meditation, and bringing it back to your inhale and your exhale, or a sensation in your body as often as you can. Fantastic.
Okay. How do we, this is a question kind of away from mindful meditation, but how do you ground yourself? How do we ground ourselves during the winter time when we're living in this kind of climate? Can we do that just as easily indoors, or?
Yeah, great questions. And during COVID, doesn't matter, right? If the weather's nice or not, we're pretty much inside a lot. So 3 mindful breaths. Find your anchor. We talked about that earlier. Just notice, where is my anchor today? Take 3 mindful breaths. You can set the timer for 1 minute and just be there with your breath. Another practice is, before you get out of bed, when your alarm goes off, just lay there. Press snooze. And until it rings again, see if you can be in your breath. See if you can notice sensations in your body. See if you can notice when your mind wanders. And instead of going right into your list for the day, come back to your breath in and out. And again, it doesn't have to be 45 minutes, right? You don't have to be sitting up tall. You don't have to wear a yoga outfit. You can just be like doing it anytime before you get out of your car. When you arrive at the grocery store, okay, I'm going to just pause and take 3 mindful breaths before I go in. Did that help?
Yes, thank you.
Any last minute questions? Going once, going twice. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming and listening. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Huge thank you to Randy Jo for doing this and donating her time for this community benefit. Mindfulness is semi-new to me, so I'm definitely going to take this moving forward, especially as we, sounds like we're probably going to be sticking through this COVID stuff, maybe through the winter. So very beneficial. So thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for tuning in. I really appreciate it. We'll be back next month. I believe October 11th, going between 2 speakers right now. So I'm not going to give anything away yet, but there'll be more to come out on that. But thank you guys so much and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody.
See you around.
Thank you.